Hello and welcome back to Critical Technicolor. I'm Hart,
I'm Zach.
and this time we're going to be talking about eXistenZ. One word, small e, capital X, capital Z, eXistenZ. It's new. It's from Nintendo Research, and it's here right now.
I'm glad you started it like this because that was I love how specific it was for not just the title, but there was a few things like that. But yeah, okay. eXistenZ, the hot new video game from 1999.
Yeah.
David Cronenberg. And this is a lesser Cronenberg, right?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I guess it's become like a cult classic. Vinegar Syndrome's got a 4K Blu-ray, but like when it came out, I don't know, it didn't really do a lot, but I guess we'll get more into detail, but it came out the same year as The Matrix.
Yeah. Yes, 1999. What a great year. We should go back
Before it all went wrong.
No, but seriously, so it's eXistenZ, right?
eXistenZ.
Like existential, not like existence.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of both, but they definitely pronounce it eXistenZ.
Now, I do think this is cool. I as far as like an underrated gem, I think this movie is really interesting because like it really it's about video games.
Yeah.
Right? It's about video games. And there is a certain forward thinkingness to this movie and how it approaches video games.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And there's also that Cronenberg, like, what the fuck is going on? And so I'm gonna just get right into it. I told you I watched Videodrome not that long ago for the first time.
Yeah.
And this feels like almost like a sequel, not a spiritual successor or anything like that, but it does feel like a sequel. It does feel like it could exist in the same like world as Videodrome.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that it borrows, or I think are like kind of the same in Videodrome. But I think most interesting is the technology. In Videodrome, it was television.
Yeah.
Right. And how TV rot in your brain and how people would start like their relationship with TV or content really like starts to skew after you take in so much of it and so much of the like kind of darker parts of it.
And that movie's like, isn't that movie like kind of mid 80s?
No, in 1980.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I believe it's 1980. Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's 1980. Oh, 83. Okay, but still fairly early.
Yeah, it's close enough to where that's like MTV exists, basically.
Yeah, but it doesn't take that sort of boring MTV rots my brain just because you don't understand like youth culture or anything like that. But Videodrome is really like, it's just like if you found like a smut channel or something and that like corrupted you, and that kind of corruption could rot your brain, and you could see that parallel to the content you absorb today. But that's all about Videodrome. So Videodrome, but that has that clear thread that like I understood and I got, and you could pair it to today, and it's still relevant. eXistenZ doesn't quite hit those things. I think a little, for me, I feel like what this does that this Videodrome does that this doesn't do is it doesn't really establish the world.
Yeah.
Am I crazy for that?
Yeah, this movie it has like the downside of like the actual narrative is pretty messy and incoherent. Like I feel like I really didn't understand what was happening until like, of course, the end of the movie, but it was really on like a second watching where it was like, okay, I get what's happening here. I can understand the full plot from start to finish, but I feel like it really doesn't all make sense until the end.
And it doesn't at the end. I feel like it doesn't really make sense at the end.
Which I guess is kind of the point, maybe.
I feel like any kind of movie. We're jumping around, so sorry, spoilers up top.
Just like the movie does, so it's fine.
Yeah, right. Spoilers for this 20-something-year-old movie. But no, dream solution. Like, oh, this was everything that happened was a dream. What? Like, it doesn't. That is such a cop out to me, and I was really surprised that was what David Cronenberg ended with. Was that like, it's a dream, you know?
I can see what you're saying. It definitely is like a played out thing. I think for me, it works a little bit better here because the whole movie has a dreamlike quality to it, where it just has this kind of surreal feeling.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess it didn't bother me too much at the end. I was like, yeah, of course.
Well, it's not that it like bothers me. Well, it does bother me, but I just feel like you get invested in this character or in these characters, and then you learn in the last like 15, 20 minutes that those characters aren't real.
Yeah.
And this is the second time Jude Law has done this to me. Because in that Repo Man movie, which I famously mistook for the other Repo Man movie with Emilio Estevez, it stars Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker, and it's the same shit where like the whole movie, you see this whole movie play out, and then in the last like 5-10 minutes, you realize he's been like dead for like days. I mean, he's like, this is like he's in a coma, brain damage, basically. And the rest of the movie we just watched was just like fake, and it's so unsatisfying. Like, it's not a twist that feels clever; it's a twist that feels like a waste of time. That's my thing.
Blame Dallas.
Well, coming around to that though, because eXistenZ like immediately throws you into this world where a video game is played with what looks like a fleshlight, but it's not. It's called a Umbi cord.
Well, it's a meta flesh pod, and it uses the connector is an Umbi cord.
Yeah, and it's like an umbilical cord, and so people are plugging these umbilical cords into their lower back.
Yep.
And very Matrix-like.
Yeah, in a way, yes.
Yeah, no, totally. Because in the Matrix, they just plugged into the back of your head. But in David Cronenberg fashion, there's like a little bit of like underlying horniness to it.
Oh yeah, it's so sexual. They're always like licking the port.
Oh my god, oh my god, the ports are crazy. I think they finger a port.
Yeah,
they
finger it, lick it. You gotta lube up your insertion tubes.
Yeah, and it looks like a butthole. It like looks like a butthole. Like there's no going around it. That's what it looks like. But yeah, they plug their umbilical cords into their butts, their back, their lower backs, their tramp stamps, and they get into this video game. But it's weird, and I think the disconnect for me, and maybe that was for you with like the not understanding what was going on, is because it's not really clear, and might be the point, because they jack into this game and you don't really know that they're jacked in unless they tell you, right? So you don't really know the difference. I think the only tell, and I'm jumping around a little bit, the only tell is when Jude Law does jack in, his hair is spiked up instead of like matted down. That was like the only tell.
They both of their hair changes each kind of time they're in a different reality. But Jennifer Jason Leigh, her hair, it's just like it gets curlier each time. They're like, the more you're deeper in.
Not a wiggy wig, but it definitely has like clip-on extensions they just throw on the back of her head to give her like curls.
Yeah, it's the 90s. You can get away with that.
Yeah, no, right. That's the last time in history you can get away with something like that. But yeah, so, and that's to me, like when comparing to the Matrix, which is like, you clearly know when you're in and out of the Matrix, versus, and then Videodrome, which also establishes like something we know, like television and cable and the sort of like, need to feed on content that like sets up that sort of story. Because this video game is so far out. And it's so, not only is it far out, because it's almost, if I had to compare it to something, it's almost like a VR game.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like a full-on virtual reality, but I do kind of like the way like basically Jennifer Jason Leigh, her character is basically addicted to it. It's like a drug. She's like, she needs it. She's like, at one point there's like a part where she's like kind of shaken, like she's jonesing for the game.
Yeah, she needs a fix. And wait, her Allegra Geller, the greatest game designer.
I love the opening with like the audience members. They're like, Allegra, we love you.
Okay, so
it's so surreal.
I think like I know people say this as an excuse all the time, but like even in the 90s, the late 90s, video games were like $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
I feel like they're like, it's like a dozen people in a church.
I mean, it's like a special, I guess you could call it like a special like presentation test group kind of thing. So it's like a smaller section. But even though it's like old people and like, I don't know, who are these gamers?
Exactly. The audience is just random people. It doesn't feel like any tech is involved. And maybe that's the choice too, even though they're talking about like, you know, all this stuff. Like, the tech is flesh powered and you are the battery and the pod is this like fleshy pink like fleshlight thing.
And you gotta flick its nubs
and
to turn it on.
Oh my god, it didn't even make sense. You just like flick its nipple thing and it like turns on. Yeah, and then everyone's like, oh,
you gotta turn it on. Like
see, and that's like David like Cronenberg was like, there's a horniness to this.
Yeah, I don't know. I love it. So it's weird enough where I feel like he's doing it. He's just doing it just to make you go, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it's like, that's the thing. There's a horniness that there's a horniness I could not get into. There are other, you were talking about, before we started recording, you were talking about Crimes of the Future. And there's a horniness there you can kind of get behind. Videodrome, there's a horniness there you can get behind. But like, this is sort of like, it's like, ew. But the story gets crazy because Jennifer Jason Leigh is Allegra Geller. She is the greatest game designer known. I think this is like how they introduce her, right? Is that she's the greatest game designer. But also she's also like on the run. Like she's a target. She's so like, first of all, a video game designer would have never been. I don't think people who invented rockets or something are this like VIP. I don't know, but I mean, and I don't want to cinema sin this. It was the concept itself was just so like funny to me that a game designer would be hunted by assassins. But yeah, so there's an assassination attempt. Okay, and then right up again, I keep drawing the line to Videodrome because the dude, there's a guy who comes into the testing or whatever, and he just pulls out a gun, a bone gun.
Yeah.
Right? It's a bone gun out of his flesh pod.
Yeah. He just pulls a bone gun out of his flesh pod.
He like screams something.
Oh, death to the demoness, Allegra Geller.
Death to and that is such a like, at least for Videodrome in this, it's such a recurring just, I pull out a gun and I exclaim, death to X. And then I open fire and she gets shot in the shoulder. Bad shot. They're not very good shots.
Yeah, that's what I say. Terrible.
These are terrible assassins. These are...
And terrible security, by the way, because holy shit, not only do they not protect anybody, but then when they do stop the bad guy, they just shoot him, like unload on him while he's on the ground. Like, I love the shot.
They just simply did not factor flesh-based weaponry into their security measurements. That was their downfall.
And they're scanning for everything else.
So Jude Law, and I guess when you learn that this is a video game, you can kind of write off some of the like nonsensicalness of the opening.
Yeah,
because it is no more nonsensical than like an average video game. I feel like girl, like she's an assassination attempt fails, and then Jude Law basically becomes her like security. But he is a marketing intern, and so he's also he's like out of his depth, right?
Yep.
And so that's the relationship they established first. But then we learn about the bioports and that Jude Law has never been he's never been penetrated by it.
Yeah, he's got no port.
He's got no port. And it's crazy. So then we learn bioports are sort of this thing that they're very common. You can get a bioport installed at the mall, at the gas station.
Yeah, it's like a piercing.
Yeah, it's like when you go to Claire's and get your ears pierced. You go to Claire's and get your bioport. And also, okay, so they go to the gas station and Willem Dafoe is there.
Which I love everything about that.
Willem Dafoe is so, I think look, I don't think this is like a master class in character work for any of these actors, but Willem Dafoe at least does come off as creepy as you'd expect him to be in something like this.
He's perfect for a guy that named Gas, who works at the gas station and installs illegal bioports.
So then, I think that while I was unsatisfied with that ending, I think writing off a lot of the ridiculousness of most of the runtime as video game logic, it eases a lot of things for me.
I mean, the writing's about as good as a Bethesda game. Like, you just show up and they tell you their whole life story and send you on a quest.
Okay, so I really want to talk about that because when they jack into the game for the first time, you know what it reminded me of? Deus Ex. But also, Deus Ex, but also just your typical BioWare, any kind of like art thing. That's why I said it's kind of forward thinking in this game, quote unquote, it establishes, because they do establish the rules of the game upright. Mm-hmm. It's like you navigate this video game by your dialogue choices, and so but if you don't hit the right dialogue, they're like the NPC you're interacting with is just sort of like in a loop. Like they're just waiting for the right command. And I was like, that's such and so this NPC logic and video game logic, I thought that was pretty forward thinking because at the time, I only think Deus Ex would have been the game to look at and have like a choice. I think outside of like Zork type games, or like adventure type games. I mean, am I wrong in that? I think Deus Ex might be the only action game like that.
Yeah, I don't think there was a lot. I mean, there was like the older Elder Scrolls games before Morrowind, but those are some of the only real in-depth RPGs kind of in that way where you can just I don't know, Daggerfall had a massive procedurally generated world and there's all these characters you can interact with and do all sorts of cool stuff, and it's kind of similar to that.
Yeah, and I guess I guess even the first Baldur's Gate did exist.
Yeah, probably.
So but I don't know. Maybe it was just the action element that made me think Deus Ex at first. Oh, and I thought a young Jude Law could play. What's the dude's name from Deus Ex? The main guy.
Is it Michael Jensen or hell is that guy's name? JC and JC Denton.
JC Denton, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. Jude Law would have been a great JC Denton. I feel like just his look at this reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's got that kind of late 90s, early 2000s kind of look to everything, from the color grading to the clothes and the hair.
Oh man, but let's go back a little bit because the bioport stuff was really out there. What I remember, the Matrix stuff, they had to drill a needle into Morpheus's head, right? It looked a big old needle.
Yeah, I mean they're grown in pods basically, and so they're fully ported from birth, and so it goes straight into your brain, I guess. Whereas in this, it's still going into the spine.
Yeah, it's the same umbilical cord idea. It's just going into the spine instead of the head.
Yeah, basically.
Or I think they're both kind of going into the spine.
Yeah, right? I mean, they're technically both going in there. I mean, it's a similar concept. It's just where the Matrix is more clean and metallic and robotic. David Cronenberg's it's a umbilical cord flesh tube.
Yeah, it's flesh. No, it is flesh, and it's made of fleshy things and animals. It's an organic thing.
Yeah, made from fish, mutated fish, basically.
Now, that's the thing. All right. So the plot up until that point is that Allegra has a flesh pod. They want to get her flesh pod that has the game eXistenZ. She wants to protect her game.
Yeah, but it's only on that one.
And it's the only one in the world. Like,
for some reason.
She doesn't back up her files. It's a big mistake for a big game. For a big game designer like Allegra Geller, you would think she would back up her pod.
Have a copy at the office.
Yeah, of some sort of flesh disc. And yeah, so yeah, they keep that going. And then they meet up with Willem Dafoe. And so basically, she needs to go in her game, and she needs like a friendly to go along with her.
Yeah, that's the weird part I still don't fully understand, is that to play the game properly, she needs to play it with someone. You can't play it like properly by yourself.
It's a co-op game.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, she can play it alone, but to really play the game, she needs someone friendly. And she's always at like, "Are you friendly?"
Yeah, and this is weird. Like, there's no sexual chemistry between them.
It's almost like a consent thing.
Yeah, but I feel like it's never like gone all the way, which I think keeps this from being sexier than other David Cronenberg movies that deal with this sort of like merging of flesh. Because I don't know, there's even a point. Well, Jude Law's character is very timid, right? And we know that. And I guess he doesn't really gain any like real confidence in himself until he gets in the game for the first time.
Yeah.
But I really like how like how much of a like virgin he is when it comes to the bioport. He's like, "Oh, I have a phobia against the penetration of my spine." It's like even when she first like touches him to like see if he has a port, it's like she basically like reaches for his ass, and he's like, "Oh my god." And to get like a back alley, and so yeah, Willem Dafoe's character gives him like a back alley port. I mean, what else to describe it, right?
Yeah, just a back alley port and a dirty chair,
in a dirty gas station, in a dirty chair. He has a clean jumpsuit. Though.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
I really do like this part. I was still like into it. I didn't really understand because I still just had trouble buying the whole game designer who is a VIP target and his flesh pod, because I didn't like, I don't know what this world is like. It's just immediately flesh pods and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
so I was sort of like, okay.
David Cronenberg basically based it off of an actual real life writer who had a fatwa out on him, and like people wanted him dead for what he wrote, and so David Cronenberg got that idea, but like then he applied it to like a video game designer, and I guess it kind of makes sense, but also it is a little ridiculous. yeah it's a Salman Rushdie. Yeah, and that's the thing, I get that idea, and maybe the video game designer thing is a little out, but like I would know that going in. Yeah, this is very white farmland suburbia. It's very like die. Like it's a little weird. So the bioport stuff though, I really was taken aback by, because I thought that was probably like the grossest part. He throws out Jude Law's back with like this like marking, like he gives him a tramp stamp basically. And then punctures his lower back so that they can get a port in there, so they can get an umbilical cord in there. Again, very sexual, there's a lot of shots of Jude Law just like bent over, looking back, and this was also the wildest part, because what happens next is they try to jack in. Do you remember what they said about jacking? Like what happens? They like it's some like neural shock or something like that like breaks the game. Basically, it's like, I don't know, she plugs into him like right away. I can't remember the exact line, but she's basically saying like he's basically got bad vibes, and it's basically sending feedback into the game or something.
Yeah, you got bad vibes. That's like, like if we're like, I don't know, if we're playing a game and I'm like, yeah, put the controller down, man, you've got bad vibes. or even better, it's like, oh, hey, let's sit down. You grab the controller, my PlayStation explodes. And it's because you have bad vibes.
It makes a lot more sense as a sexual thing of, well, he can't get it up right now.
Yeah. And then it's almost like a non-issue, because then it turns out Gas like put him up a faulty bioport or something.
Yep.
He gets killed by Jude Law.
Yep.
And then they go off to Ian Holmes' character, who's like out in the woods. Is he like her father or something? I didn't really understand
he's
that.
Like, I guess just like another kind of like higher up designer developer type guy. I mean, it seems like he mostly works on the Flesh Pod side of things.
Yeah. He's hardware.
Yeah,
he's hardware.
So
she's software.
It's like a business friend type person, I guess.
She's front end. She's front end. He's back end. Yeah.
Which going back just a little bit, I love the scene at the gas station where Jude Law is in the back and he's like basically not wanting to get the bioport, and there's some things going on, but Jennifer Jason Leigh is just outside and she's just like feeling the walls and she's like touching the gas pump, and then she throws a rock at it and she's like,
no, yes. Loud. Yes. And then the fucking two-headed dragon shows up.
Yeah, and a little like mutated two-headed lizard thing shows up and she's just like playing with it.
In retrospect, I'm like, okay, yeah, duh, this is like video game. But I was also like, what the hell?
It's like, one of those things where, like, in the context of the movie, it is like, this is a video game and you can understand, like, in retrospect, okay, she's like impressed by how real everything is. You can't tell the difference. But also, I take in the analogy of she is high as fuck and she's just like rubbing the walls and like, whoa.
No, she is. Yeah, she's high. She's having too much fun. And then we don't even know this. We just know this as her personality.
Yeah, she's just touching walls. It's fine.
Yeah, she's a gooner. Yeah, she's just like, she's giving, she says Jude Law is giving bad vibes, but I really think she's the one who's giving bad vibes.
Yeah, she's always blaming him.
She's blamed, like, really, like, wow, idiot, you blew up my game. She didn't even know what he was doing.
Like an abusive girlfriend. I don't know.
There are a lot of accents in this. Do you know that?
Yeah, there are. We haven't gotten there, but Darcy Nader is one of my favorites.
Which one is Darcy Nader?
Oh, he's the guy that sells them the game pod in the game, and he's like, I might have what you're looking for.
He has like longer hair, right?
Yeah, it's like kind of a comb over, and he's got this very drawn out, like very bizarre accent. I love it.
Yeah. Oh man, these guys are freaks. So there's a lot of butthole imagery at this point.
Yes.
It's a lot like the plug. That is a butthole. It's straight up. And it's so funny. She even she puts like chapstick on it basically.
Yeah, I think they call it like it's like just slightly off from WD-40, but it's like a lube.
Yeah. It's lube. She lubes up his cord. She lubes up his port and then sticks a cord in. The game explodes and she blames him.
Yep.
And then they go to Ian Holm, who's also sporting a different accent.
Yep.
And then this is when the movie really like gets good, because up until this part I'm kind of like, I did enjoy the gas station part, but I like was sort of lost. Like I was like, what is the point of this? Where are we going?
Yeah, it's really not till you get to the game.
Yeah, that's when I was like, okay, what maybe they're cooking something. And so yeah, they finally get into the game. And we know that because Jude Law has it updo on his hair instead of the down. So the hair changes are like the only real node, the only real tell.
Yeah, it's the only signifier of which reality you're in is what hairstyle do they have?
Aside from them saying it's flat out like, we're in a video game or we're in the game. Now, man, tell you, how many games have we played like this?
A lot.
I did. So this is when I kind of got into it, when I started seeing the like parallels, like, and I like that how forward thinking it could be. Just like the way you had to like interact with NPCs to like get the story going. You had to like call out their name and like specifically say like, I want this. And you know what? Have you seen, maybe you've seen some of those AI demos?
Yeah.
That have gone around, and they're not very deep. It's usually like you're in one. I remember I played one, and it was at an NVIDIA thing.
Yeah.
And it was like a game where you like were in a hotel lobby and you needed to find the key card for a room. And you had to like actually talk to, there was like maybe like 3 or 4 NPCs hanging out, and you had to talk to them and kind of like pull the clues together. It was a little bit of like a detective story. Now, in that, the AI was it was almost too broad. Like you didn't even know what to ask or how to ask it.
Yeah.
I almost wish. But like your typical video game has like a few options because they want to get you. They want to get the plot moving, even if the plot might stem out in a few different directions. They do want to get you forward. And so that's what I like, that this up top, this eXistenZ, the game, establishes that like, yeah, you're supposed to like find the plot thread and push it forward and like talk to the right guy. And you can almost see, I almost feel like there should be an edit where like you could see the gameplay notifications, you know, like, like, oh, he remembered that, or oh, you like pick the prompt.
Yeah, that's all you need to make this more of a modern video game, really.
Yeah. But that's when I really started getting into it. That's when I really started drinking the Kool-Aid, I guess.
Yeah, once you meet Darcy Nader, I feel like things really pick up.
But so also in the game you learn how pods are made.
Yeah.
How the game pods are made. And they're made from like amphibians. They're made from like fish pods, right?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, they get like genetically modified fish and they're all fucked up, and they're using them for different things and also for food. But they got like a fish farm where they're just like gutting these weird mutated fish and frogs and then using their parts to make flesh pods. However that works.
And again, I'm like, did I miss something? Is there like a nuclear plant nearby making these fish? Or they're just pulling out fish brains and putting enough together to make a homunculi? I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing you really get an indication from is you see that two-headed lizard at the gas station, and then when they pull up to the ski resort where the other guy is to fix the game pod, they see another one, and I think Allegra Geller mentions like what is it, like sign of the times or something like that. It's just like things are just apparently, I don't know, we don't know enough about this world, but things don't seem like they're going great, I guess, in terms of the ecosystem.
I guess, fucking dragons flying around.
We don't know what's going on, but
it's just a diet of mutated fish.
There could be a pollution or there's some sort of idea behind it, but it's never really explored.
I almost feel like I could have believed this a little more if it was like a Ready Player One situation, not like Ready Player One in like, the VR sense, but I mean like if this is supposed to be like a rundown dystopia type of thing, I just feel like it's actually like, it looks great. I'm like, wow, look at all the nice trees. It's actually far greener than I ever would expect it. I maybe should have put it like a rundown city or something.
Well, and I think that's kind of the thing, is they do mention like everybody moved out of the city. They're all in the country now because the city's like bad, but you don't see the city. All you ever see is the countryside, and it seems fine. Everything's nice.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems fine. And like when at the end, when like Civil War breaks out, it's almost like, what?
Yeah.
Where did these guys come from? Who lit this fire?
Who are they shooting at?
Yeah, exactly. Who are the enemies here? Oh, and then again, maybe it's video game logic. Maybe, their AI is shooting at the wall or something. Again, we've seen how many games? How many games have we seen?
I don't know if you've played one of those, the last few Medal of Honor games, but man, I got some footage of guys just shooting at nothing for like 20 minutes.
It actually reminded me of that. It reminded me of like Medal of Honor Frontline or something, where you're like, it's like a staged, like, even like an early Call of Duty, it's like a staged action portion. Yeah, but then like, if you're ever playing those games and you're like, you play it the first time you're in it, you have blinders on, so you don't even really notice that like the AI around you are like shoot at the walls or like not really moving, or there's like only like 4 or 5 of you. It feels like a dozens, That's what that ending shot felt like when the soldiers show up. I'm like, it feels like a cutscene, but like you could see the edges of the screen, so you're like, it's kind of empty.
Yeah, it's like when you're paying attention. That's the problem I have with a lot of games. I'll stop and do the opposite of whatever they're saying, and then it all starts falling apart.
And I don't mean to nitpick. That's like that's just a nitpicky thing to know. I just thought like it was so out there. Maybe that's why this resonated, because this didn't like do poorly. People received this pretty well, and it's got like this this cult following, which I think it might be well deserved.
I'd say so. I mean, I personally love it.
You love this, yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
I love this. I don't think we haven't had a movie we both. I don't hate this movie, but we have not agreed on a movie since I saw the TV Glow. So we've just been going back and forth with like extremes. But yeah, no, I just thought like the fish stuff and like I love when they send them down to the Chinese restaurant.
I love all that.
I love the Chinese restaurant just in the middle of the woods. Again, it's just in the middle of the woods.
You've got to go to the Chinese restaurant in the middle of the woods. You can ask anybody. They know where it is. You order the special and don't take no for an answer.
That's what I'm saying. I wish I could see the text box.
Yeah, you got to make a note so you can remember what to do.
Yeah, don't say no for answer like in bold. So I was like, okay, I know I have to remember that. And yeah, that's what some of the NPC dialogue I really did enjoy that. Trap was a recent movie that I saw that felt very much like a video game.
I thought I don't know what it, like we've skipped around a little bit, but they go in the game and then this movie's all over the place, but they go in the game and then in the game they buy a game. They basically choose a game to play in the game. So they go into another game and that's where they end up in the Chinese restaurant kind of stuff. And I think I don't know, like it's got multiple levels, but Jude Law just kind of wakes up in a fish factory, just like gutting fish. And I don't know if you've ever played What Remains of Edith Finch, but it's an interesting story of this family with all these children that have died tragically. But one of them like works in like this fish cannery, and it's just like this monotonous, horrible job where you're just cutting off fish heads, and basically they end up like killing themselves with this whole hallucination and everything. But it just reminded me so much, like with this movie of that game, and I'm wondering if there's some inspiration there, like with this fish cannery thing.
You know what? I totally missed that because I know it's like I thought of it as the Game Boy flesh pod, which gets sucked into their back, right? Yeah. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and it goes inside of them. It's like,
it just goes straight into the spine, which I like when they do it. She does it to Jude Law, and then afterwards he's like, "You want me to do you?" And she's like, "Yeah,
hell yeah!"
She's so excited.
And does that when he tongues her?
Yeah, that's when he tongues her bioport, and she's like, "What the fuck?" It's his character. His character did that.
And he's like, no, I didn't. It was someone else. It was my character that did that. You should not be licking bioport so freely. But oh my god, there were tons of the moment in the Chinese restaurant where he orders the special.
Yes.
And
everybody leaves.
Everyone's all right. Again, NPC like it's like they just get up and walk out.
I love the waiter, just like the specials are only for special occasions. And they're like, it's her birthday, and it's like, oh, very good.
He believed it was like a skill check pass, lied successfully.
Yeah, definitely.
Or a speech check or something. And then but that scene where he starts building a gun out of fish bones is so wild to me. It's so ridiculous.
Disgusting.
And it's gross. I almost felt like I could taste the fish. It was like a very visceral scene.
This looks like rotting oysters.
Yeah, there were a few scenes like that I did get a visceral like, oh, this is gross. This is nasty. Fish scene, I could not look away because and then like there are teeth that you load it with.
Yeah, you got to load it with teeth.
Of course, right?
Of course.
And then he's like, oh man, I want to kill someone. But the thing is, I want to kill someone, but I don't want to kill the Chinese waiter. He's too nice. Yeah. He's too nice. He's, I don't want to kill him. He's too nice. And then the Chinese waiter comes back, and immediately he's like, yeah, fuck you.
Which I like the way he delivers it, and she kind of like, he pretends to threaten her, I guess, as like he's gonna kill her, like the assassin, which seems like a weird thing to do. And then he kind of plays it off like must have been my character, but then she's like, I don't know. He's just like, I do want to kill somebody, the waiter, and she's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then calls over the waiter.
Now, listen, dude, as someone who has played like I can't even get through a Bethesda game because I like the second I step into an area, I like save the game and I'm like, I have to kill someone. And, so again, that moment really felt like that. Like it was like he just saved and he was like, okay, I'm just gonna I really need to kill someone. I have to just shoot this guy down unceremoniously. Everyone looks at him. He's just like, you know, it happens, right, guys? And everyone's like,
okay. Disagreement.
Well, again, man, there's so many games that have that game logic where you just like, you know, you hit something and then people run off and then they just like kind of stop and like, what was I doing? And they just go back to normal. There's just like, so I did really like how like that charm of this movie. Whether that was intentional or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with this one.
It's hard to tell because there's so few games like now today. There's so many games you can point to that like have dialogue trees and have this type of like setup. But in 1999, there weren't that many. So that's why I was wondering was this forward thinking of Cronenberg's part? Is David Cronenberg really a gamer?
Maybe.
You know, is he a secret gamer? I don't know.
He's a strange man.
He is. And yeah, so we get through the video game, or we're still in the video game, and we build this bone gun. Then they pour it in again. This is where I start to get lost because there are layers to this. The mini game, the mini pod is the first layer, but then they try to jack into a rotten pod or something.
Yeah, I mean they end up in the fish factory, and inside all that, basically they go back and forth. Like they come out of the game, then they go back in the game, you know. And she's like, let's go back to the Chinese restaurant. Don't you want to know what the special is? But it's like
no, they jack out. Yes, he. Oh, what does he go? He goes, eXistenZ. Pause.
Yeah, yeah. So they kind of it stops in the middle of the Chinese restaurant scene, and then we end up back where he kills the waiter. So it's kind of split up, but they do end up like going back to the fish factory after like running into a contact. And it's all this like convoluted like game company espionage plot that really doesn't mean anything.
The espionage plot that comes up is sort of like
so random.
That's what I'm like, okay. And also, mind you, the only weapon we've seen so far is a gun that shoots teeth.
Yeah, just the bone gun and the security guys at the beginning of the movie had regular guns. So,
yeah. They shot that guy down.
Which I don't want to forget that when they do kill that Chinese waiter, they drops the gun gets cut and then it starts bleeding and he drops it. But like a dog just comes up and starts chewing on the gun because it's a bone. But there's a constant theme throughout the movie where like the gun keeps ending up back at like to the main characters and everybody's like, oh, his dog brought me this. Oh, my dog brought me this.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Again, it's just like, just like flew into your inventory or something. I don't know. But that was such a bizarre scene where it's like, he shot the guy and then he started bleeding. I think I like looked away and I looked back and I was like, why is his hand bloody? And then all of a sudden the dog shows up and takes the bone. So this is where it loses me though, because when we move into like they jack out and they jack back in, and then they try to jack into a rotten pod.
Yeah, they find like the pods. I don't know. Someone stole it and they hid it there, and it's at the factory. So they go there, and it's in her workstation at the fish farm where they were working earlier in the other game that we're all in.
Where else would you develop a game but not the fish market? Right?
But it's rotten, but she still wants to pour it into it, and then she's like, I don't know, it's killing her. So Ted Peichel comes over and like cuts it with a knife and it's just bleeding everywhere and she's dying and he doesn't know how to tie a knot apparently.
I like there's a scene he's just holding the cords together like I don't know what to do.
He's just crying and then the guy from the fish factory that he met earlier shows up and he's like, I know what to do. And he's just, I love how he comes over with a flamethrower. He's gonna burn the pod, but he just like, I'll lightly toast it. He just doesn't even barely burns it.
He's just going down like he's all right, let's just take the whole fish factory down. That's thousands of dollars in property.
But it explodes and then there's spores, toxic spores everywhere. It's infecting all the pods.
Yeah, so I mean at this point I was kind of like, what the hell's going on? For me, when they had me, they lost me at this point. I did not know what was going on. I could not follow.
Yeah, that's really where the plot
here.
just kind of goes completely off the rails, because they're like the whole fish factory's burning and she like stabs the guy with the flamethrower, and then like all this crazy shit's happening, and then they're like back in their room and like they're just out of the game now. I guess it's fine. But also the pod's infected and now there's like a toxic spore thing going on. Like,
the toxin followed them out of the game.
Yeah, she mentioned some sort of reality bleed effect. Like, it's totally normal.
Yeah. When you have your VR headset on for too long, I guess.
Yeah, well, there are some more scenes from like the work print that there are some fan edits of, and there's one scene that's cut out of the movie, but like they came out of the game at one point, and like Darcy Nader, who dies for whatever reason. I don't even remember why the fuck Darcy Nader dies, but he's dead at one point. Something about the espionage thing. But they come out of the game and they're just like laying on the bed, but then the dead body of Darcy Nader is just on the other bed next to them for a while. It's like, oh yeah, that'll fade in a little bit.
Like it'll just fade out of existence.
Yeah, it's like, so even when you're out of the game, you're still like not sure if you're like in reality. I mean, at one point they come out of the game and Ted Pikel's like touching the couch and he's like, I can't tell if it's real.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's some interesting stuff going on, but I just kind of feel like, man, I just kind of feel like I don't know.
The execution is messy.
I just haven't seen enough to figure out like
it does feel like there needed to be like more expansion of like the world. Like we're so confined to these two characters that it is kind of like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, maybe I think really making it clearer that like they were in the game or out of the game, maybe that would have helped some of the distortion.
Which I don't know. Then you get to the point with the rotten pod, and then that's when reality starts to break and the pod gets destroyed, and they're in the game, but that pod's gone, and I don't know.
I think it's interesting that David Cronenberg really goes out of his way to avoid any like digital or electronic,
I love the pink phone. I didn't even mention the pink phone.
Oh yeah.
That's my pink phone.
But like he goes out of his way to not have any electronics in it. Like, yeah. If like there's no like the scene is glitching out, I don't know what's real, what's not, or like meshing worlds. They just tell you but like it doesn't really totally come across unless someone tells you like, oh, the game world and the real world are blending. Yeah. Like I wouldn't know because the couch in the game world looks just like the couch in the real world. So like yeah, the character is sort of freaking out, but like I am like, what? Like I didn't know where I was. Yeah,
and they even like Jennifer Jason Leigh's character mentions like when they first get into the game, like because they kind of like bleed into the game where there's people moving around their bedroom and then it starts to like turn into where they are. Where she mentions like you can get like slow cuts or fast cuts or like like it can be different depending on how you design it. I guess however that fuck that works. Because I don't think we've even mentioned, even though she designed the game, she has no clue what's happening or how the game works. It is like AI. She just made it and it just does it, I guess.
She's the greatest game designer. But she's really an idea person.
Yeah.
Right? She's really an idea person. She does not.
She works the best within the way. It's almost like a director of sorts.
Yeah, I guess. I don't even think she's directing.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to know what's happening.
She's always seemed surprised by like things going on. She's like, "Whoa, like we're doing that? It's so real. It's such." Oh, if there's one thing she's like, "Yeah, this is so me. Like I would totally do this." But I guess these are tells for the ending, which then it turns out that she is not the game designer. She is like something else. But yeah, at this point, this is where that part really cracked me up, where they come out of the pod and then like they're like, hey, what's real, what's not? And then the affection is spreading and then the room explodes.
Yeah, it just explodes.
Yeah, it just explodes. And that caught me off guard. I think I jumped when that happened.
Yeah, it's one of those just out of nowhere, like slow conversations and then just like explosion.
And then they're under attack out there, and that's where you get this like empty battlefield with this like a random fire here or there, and it's just like Ian Holmes' character runs up first, or I forget the
commando guy breaks in. The commando guy, who I didn't even realize the first time I watched the movie, but the commando guy was like one of the characters from the like video game store in the game.
Yeah,
he was like one of their espionage guys.
Yeah, and he's one of the NPC, or not NPC, but he's one of the people at the end that like tested the game.
Yeah, but he comes in and he's just like, I don't know, death to realism or some such, and like the revolution has begun, and they're like, what?
That's also another thing. Death to again, it's like it's at least in Videodrome and eXistenZ, it's like this kind of like say this like exclamation, death to and
yeah, it's always just I don't know. It's very much this like idea of this terrorist who just screams their idea and then kills people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's actually what I was thinking of, but I don't know how to even say that. Like it's just like, Cronenberg, what are you trying to say?
What is he trying to say?
What are you trying to say? Death to realism. Death to the game designer. This is just Gamergate. The movie. Really. She's too woke.
Yep.
And they gotta take her out.
People are disgusted by those back holes.
Yeah. But yeah, and then there's a stupid moment like the commando gets shot down by Ian Holm, and Ian Holm's like he I love how he runs up and shoots the guy like point blank.
Yeah, he gotta make sure.
It's just like like it's just kind of gross.
Just splatters.
And then Ian Holm is there and
mentions the dog, that his dog brought the gun.
He mentions the dog. What's with that gun? Oh yeah, the dog bought it to me. Okay. And then she takes the gun. She takes the gun and shoots him. Again, it's like, okay, why'd you shoot him? I don't even really know who he was at this point. I still thought that was like her father.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he's a guy who works at the company, I guess, the same company, and in the plot of the game, like there's some sort of, again, the espionage game company thing, and he's going to go work for the other company. He's stolen her game and he's going to go to the other company, and she's like,
this plays into the corporate espionage.
Yeah, and she, because she's freaking out because her game's dead, but he's like, your game's fine. I stole it. It's over. I got it over here. You should come with me. And she's like, picks up an MP5 and then just blows him away. And then Ted Pikel's like, why did you do that for?
I love Jude Law's, like he's so like timid in the real world, quote unquote.
Yeah, but
he's so funny. Just like his reactions to some of these things, the bioport. What are you doing? You're gonna cripple me for life? It's like Willikers. Yeah, geez. He's such a geez guy. But yeah, Allegra kills Ian Holm, and then and I forgot the infection. The infection was coming out of his butthole. Yeah, basically, it's like gas from the gas station gave him a bad bioport to try and kill the game. So they got it replaced by the other guy, the game, I don't know, the hardware guy, and then that guy gave him a new bioport, but he gave him a bad bioport as well to try to kill the game. Espionage, baby. But I do like that it's what they basically fill the hole with, like there's like a butt plug. Yeah, it's a cleansing butt plug that just like a suppository that'll clean out the infection. Yes. And then at the end, when Allegra kills Ian Holm and Jude Law's character is like, "Wah!" Then the truth starts to come out, and then she blows up his butt plug. That was the craziest kill in my opinion. When it comes to guns and with shooting teeth, the butt plug explosion was really graphic. Yeah, just spine explosion. As she screams death to the demon, Ted Pikel. Yes, death to the demon. And then did I win? Yeah. I love the explosions of people shooting each other in the back. And she's like, did I win? Did I do it? Oh my God. And then so then we learn last few minutes of the movie. Was the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes? It's like maybe fucking 5 minutes at most. Yeah, it's like at the very end of the movie. It turns out everyone jacks out of the fucking pod. It's been like 20 minutes. Yeah. I think they said it's like 20 minutes, and it felt like days is what they said. Yeah, and like it's just they've just been playing the game. And I do like some of the feedback, some of the, like Willem Dafoe's characters, like, oh man, I was so bummed that I got taken out so early. But I was like, so what were you doing in there then? You were spectating? You in spectating mode?
Yeah, I wonder how this game like works. Like, where were these people when everything else was going on? Because apparently they know what was happening. So it's like everyone's aware, but like you don't see them. I don't know. Yeah. There's like a lobby somewhere we're not aware of.
It's like they built like a werewolf or a mafia game, you know, where someone has to play a role, or like a murder mystery type of deal where everyone jacks in and plays a role.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do I need to know the ins and outs of how this game works? I guess not, but like some guidance, because right now it's just like flesh. It's just like flesh. I don't know. I like
flesh.
This flesh.
David Cronenberg, flesh.
And then we learn that the real game designer, who is still a high profile designer, but he's like, oh wow, great! I'm glad we got all this great feedback, but I didn't introduce the highly specific murder the game designer storyline. Weird. That's weird that was part of the game.
Even in the real world, supposedly, he made the game, but doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Because I guess she was leading it, but still.
You know what this kind of... Speaking of the Matrix, this sort of even reminded me of Matrix 4. Where, you remember Keanu Reeves' character? Basically, the Matrix was a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. He's I guess a slave to his own creation or something like that. Anyway, it ends with Jude Law and Allegra, Jason Jennifer Lee. They end up just shooting these two people who we don't know who they are. Like, we just met them.
Yeah, basically the game developer and his assistant are gunned down, which I do like the fact that, okay, they're apparently a couple. They came here together. Also, they have the same dog from the game who kept bringing people guns, and underneath fake fur, it has guns that they use to kill these people.
Also, I guess the dog was also jacked in too.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I guess they just brought it over from there, thinking of their own dog. I don't know.
Dog had a bioport. Maybe that's a question that isn't answered in this movie.
Never know.
But like, yeah, the end. They kill the game designer. Which,
or his perversion of reality, specifically.
Yes. Freak.
Yeah. He's destroyed the idea of reality, because the game is so real. Like, what even is reality anymore? And that's bad.
That's bad. You should never do that.
Never.
So like at the end of this, I did get some Videodrome vibes. I think that like Def 2 X before shooting is such a Videodrome thing. And the idea of like the perversion of reality.
Yep.
Same theme here. Though again, I think because there's like, you see those TVs and you know how this stuff works up top in Videodrome, when it starts to delve into freak zone, you know, against the real freaky, then it's sort of like, okay, you can kind of like stick with it. But in this, because there's no like establishing like what even is a video game or what even is the technology at work here. Like, if this was like maybe people playing the Super Nintendo, you know, or playing like the PlayStation or like a PlayStation like device that had buttons, and then they were like, yeah, but look at this. Like, just sort of like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm asking too much, but I did feel like I wanted them to tell me how these things work up top.
I guess they kind of do, where Jude Law asks like what the point of the game is, and she's like, you got to play the game to find out what the game's about. So I guess you had to watch the movie to find out what the plot was.
Well, I mean, that didn't do me. How'd that do me, you know?
I enjoy it on a second watching. I feel like it all comes together the second time, because you know what's going on. But like, yeah, that first time, it's like, the hell just happened?
No, maybe I was a little disappointed by it, but I didn't hate the movie. I actually would watch this again with like friends or stuff like that. It's also not very long, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's like 90 minutes, like almost exactly.
Which is sort of like so rare today. a tight 90.
Yeah, there's a fan edit that's like 2 hours, adds in a bunch of footage, but from the little bit I've watched of it, a lot of the extra footage is kind of redundant. It's just stating things. Like, it does have a little bit more context, but most of it is just still in the film, just without being explicitly told to you. So it doesn't really add that much.
The stuff they tell you doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and the further explanation in the fan edit also, again, it's you're getting the same information, just more of it, and it still has the same problem of there's just not enough expansion to. Yeah, how does any of this work?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like for Videodrome, again, you can hang your logic on the existing TVs and radio stations and how cable works and stuff like that. You could still latch on to that to make sense of the perversion. But yeah, this one is a little further off. But I mean, maybe now, I don't know how it was received in 99. I mean, it was received well enough in 99, but I wonder what people thought of the game system. Like, now I can look at it and think of like, oh, this is like AR or VR or like something like that. Mm-hmm. And like you some base knowledge of video games today could kind of like, oh, this is like this. Yeah. Or like even we were talking about how like the interaction in the game felt like RPG, like NPC interactions and dialogue that they're so common today. But in 1999, I'm sure that was a really novel idea.
Yeah, and I think, again, this came out the same year as The Matrix, and The Matrix is the same concept, but it is done better, more cohesive, more clear. It actually, it explicitly makes things like obvious to the viewer, where this movie is, I don't know, I would put it more closely, less to a video game and more like just a drug trip. Like, you were just going through this experience.
I think Cronenberg must have played like a really good game. He must have played a game and he got so addicted to it that he was like, I cannot play another video game because I cannot waste however many hours of my life playing it.
Yeah.
I wonder what Cronenberg would have played.
That man, God knows.
I feel like he would have played like, I know like he's got like a style and like these topics he explores, and there's always like this body horror element. I bet he would have played like something lighthearted. He was like probably really into Spyro the Dragon or something.
Remember that Tulip game where you go around just kissing people?
Oh, he would have loved that. He would have loved that movie. He would have loved that game. Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, I didn't love this movie. I didn't hate it. I would actually rewatch it because it did have some interesting things going on. I would watch it as a group because I also think they're so like, it's kind of so gross at times that I was sort of like, ew. Like, I was just like sort of like grossed out by some of the things I was seeing, and overall I dug it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I may be a little numb to these sort of things because I've made a few people watch the film now and they're all like, ew. And I'm just like, this is fine. This is not even close to the worst I've seen.
Right. And it's not even the worst Cronenberg.
No, it's pretty clean other than the butthole thing. There's not a lot in the Chinese waiter getting his face blown off.
Oh, that was funny.
I just love the fake head.
or the tooth gun. The tooth that like she's like, oh, did you get bit? And they pull out like a tooth out of her like wound.
I need that tooth gun. I want a little stand for the tooth gun.
The bone and tooth gun. Yeah. I would recommend this movie though. I think it's a fun watch with a group, and it's definitely like if I were making like an underrated like gamer themed playlist where I was like these movies are like video games, I would definitely put eXistenZ on that list besides like Trap, I guess. And another movie that I saw that had like video game, I describe it as video game logic, but it's sort of like just like a game come to life that's not like actually a game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely Trap and eXistenZ. They fall in the same bucket for me. When I compare it to The Matrix, of course, The Matrix eats this movie's lunch. No, eats this movie's fish special, no doubt. But I thought it was fun, so I'd watch it again. Yeah, it's fun enough that I'd rewatch. Yeah,
good. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a creepy one, a weird one.
I love the surrealness,
and it's 90 minutes, so it's like you couldn't really go wrong with 90 minutes. Not even an afternoon. But yeah, I think that's all. Is there anything else you want to say? Any closing comments on eXistenZ?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's not much else to say. I mean, I do. Again, I love that when they come out of the end of the game, like it's the same thing. They're still in the same like building and all this other stuff, but it's called Transcendence from Fromage or whatever.
Yeah, and they do the same. They do the same name thing, right?
Yeah, they're like capital C, capital whatever, and it's like Fromage, capital P, capital I. Like
I love how specific that is.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, for no real reason other than like a naming convention. Like that doesn't really play into anything else. It's such a 90s thing, like an X, extreme.
It's very marketing boardroom bullshit, and I love it.
Yeah, I love that though. And yeah, I think we should watch more body horror stuff. We should watch more Cronenberg.
There's so much.
Well, maybe the Substance is staring us right in the face.
Yeah, I mean, I think The Substance is something we're talking about. That might be my favorite movie of the year, and maybe one of my favorite movies overall.
Ooh, crazy! Because it's not that I don't. I actually, if I were going to pair this and Substance, I definitely like Substance more. But that's something we can get into because it's interesting that you say that. But okay, for that, I think that's for next episode's conversation, right? All right, cool. So that's Zach and Hart for what the hell is this show called?
It's Critical Technocolor. That's capital C, capital T.
Capital C, capital C. Yes. That's it. We're signing off.
Yep.
See you later.
Goodbye.